Oh, hello, YouTube. Today on the Naughty Librarian, we are doing the final James Bond book, and that is Octopus and the Living Daylights. And I'm using the word book loosely because technically this is just a collection of short stories. It is a teeny tiny little book. Look how little it is. How many pages is it? Okay, so this is 131 pages. It's very short. But they still managed to put 4 short stories in it. The yikes factors are here, obviously, like we've talked about many times, but they're short stories, so like less time to be too terrible, I'll say. So yeah, let's just get into them. I'm gonna go through each story in here and just give a quick recap. So story 1 in the book is Octopussy. And I'm gonna tell you right now, Octopussy has nothing to do with the movie Octopussy. So in this one, we're basically looking at this guy. His name is Dexter Smythe, and he's like 54, he's slightly bald, a little bit of a soft belly on him, you know, normal middle-aged guy. He's a former British military officer, and he's retired, he's widowed, he's living in Jamaica. And all he does all day is just go diving in like the coral reefs, and he has this little octopus friend named Pussy. And he wants desperately to find this really super venomous scorpion fish, and he wants to try to take the scorpion fish and feed it to Octopussy, just to see if Octopussy will eat it, and if Octopussy eats it, what will happen to Octopussy? You know, what a dick, am I right? No one likes this guy. And we're gonna double down on the asshole behavior. So let's flash back all the way to World War II, okay? He was stationed in Germany, mainly because he spoke the language. And one day, he found like this random German document, and it was basically a treasure map to like a cache of Nazi gold bars. Problem is, it's super high up in the Alps, and he doesn't know how to get there. So Dexter needs to figure out a way to get up the Alps. So he looks up a guy who used to be a ski instructor and a guide for the Alps, and his name was Hans Oberhauser. So he bursts into this guy's house and kidnaps him in front of his family under the pretense that he was wanted for questioning for being a Nazi's like sympathizer. However, Oberhauser is like generally the nicest guy to ever exist, and he and Smythe actually get along really well. So Smythe, he tells him like, hey, listen, we both know you're not a Nazi, okay? Like, we're good, but I need help finding something in the mountains. So if you help me go find this thing in the mountains, I'll take you back home and I'll give you all the documents you need to say that you never collaborated with the Nazis. You'll be good. Which is all true stuff, because Oberhauser never collaborated with the Nazis. He's just a nice ski instructor. So Oberhauser's like, cool, man, like I get it. Let's go up the mountain. So up the mountain they go, and they eventually find the correct spot on the map. And Smythe, he's like, hey, what's that over there, Oberhauser? Smythe literally pulled the look over there trick on him. And as he's looking over there, he pulls out his service revolver and like executes Oberhauser. So Oberhauser's body falls, rolls down a bit, and off the cliff and into a big crevasse in the ice. But nothing to do about that now. At least he's dead, I guess. So Smythe, he's like, all right, gold, let's go. He has to now, by himself, take all of this gold back down the mountain. Okay, and in secret. He can't even ask for anybody for help because it's Nazi gold, and he hides it. So when the war's over, you know, like the coast is clear, he can come back and dig it up, and there's all his gold. And that's exactly what he does. 6 months later, he goes back to Germany, and he smuggles the gold bars out. And things are just working out for Smythe. Like, he gets all his gold, he gets married, he moves to Jamaica, and that's all great. But the big question here is, how is he going to get the gold that he has and turn it into money? Because it's Nazi gold. You can't just sell it. However, this was Jamaica in the early 1950s at best. It was a bit Wild West over there. So it wasn't really hard for him to find some gold dealers who don't ask a lot of questions. So he goes up to these known criminals called the Fu brothers, and they have all these connections in like Hong Kong and Macau, and they're able to smuggle the gold there. And then once all the gold has been sold off, Smythe will stand to make about I don't know, $100,000 minus the 10% cut for the brothers. Shock of all shocks, Smythe isn't greedy about this. He's like, yeah, that sounds fine. That 10% sounds good. I'm gonna get plenty of money. You guys can get a little bit too. He's really cool about the whole thing, which is weird because he murdered a guy to get this gold. And then things keep going on like that. He brings them gold, they smuggle it, they give him money. And it goes on like that for years and years. And during this time, his marriage falls apart and his wife ends up dying because she accidentally overdoses. And like he has 2 heart attacks. And like he's basically at this point, he has all this, blood money, but he's just trying to gradually drink himself to death. And that kind of takes us to now. The one day where there's a knock on his door and it's James Bond. So apparently what had happened was 15 years after the Oberhauser incident in the Alps, the glacier melted enough that Oberhauser's body fell out of it. And they figured out who killed him really easily because Smythe used his service pistol on him. They know like the bullet patterns or the muzzle patterns on the bullet. They could match it easily. And since this is like an actual war crime, they have to investigate it. And they send James to him to get a confession. And James in particular requested this mission because it's personal for him. Because Oberhauser, the super friendly ski instructor guy, yeah, he was a father to James during his teen years after he was already orphaned. Like, James knew this guy very well. So after the whole confession, James leaves and he's just disgusted with Smythe. He's like, ew, you're gross, you're a cold-blooded killer. And he's like, listen, bro, I'm just here to get the confession. Probably within a week, the military police are going to show up here. And yeah, they're going to arrest you and you're going to stand trial for this. Like, it's coming. And then James just leaves. But basically, he's just giving Smythe a time frame of 1 week. He knows he has 1 week to live, which is enough time to commit suicide if he wants to avoid a trial and jail time. And Smythe isn't really sure what he's gonna do. He's like, well, maybe I could try to run, or I don't know. I don't know what I'm gonna do. You know what? I'm gonna go swim in the reef. I'm gonna clear my brain. And he's swimming in the reef and he's like, oh shit, that's the scorpion fish. The one fish he's been looking for this whole time. So Smythe, he grabs his spear. He's about to get the fish, and the fish has one last revenge before it gets speared. It shoots some barbs out and it gets Smythe right in the belly. And the barbs are where all the poison is, and it's incredibly highly poisonous, toxic. He's gonna die. He knows he probably has about 15 minutes left because there's no way he's gonna get the antidote in time. So he's like, all right, last thing I gotta do, I gotta try to feed this scorpion fish to Octopussy. He's still being a dick to the very end. So he has a little fish and he's like, Octopussy, come eat your lunch. And spoiler alert, it goes really poorly for him, and no one's upset about this because Octopussy's like, I'm not eating that. Ew, you're an asshole. Whoosh, grabs him with her tentacles, sucks him under the water, basically to drown him. And then as soon as he drowns, she proceeds to eat him. Yeah, eaten by octopus is Smythe's ultimate fate. And ultimately the case is ruled an accidental drowning, even though James suspects it was obviously suicide, but case closed, I guess. You can't try a dead guy, so here we are. Eaten by octopus, the end of Octopussy. Next short story is The Property of a Lady, which actually has like a little bit to do with the film Octopussy, surprisingly. So the story starts off with James. He's at the office and he is bored to tears. He's literally trying to find anything to do in order just to pass the time between missions. Lucky for James, a case has finally arisen and M calls him into his office. And realistically, this is kind of a really boring type of case, but at least it's something to do. In M's office, there's this guy named Dr. Fanshawe, and like the way he is described in the book is literally Austin Powers. I don't know how Ian Fleming did it, but he invented both John Waters and Austin Powers, okay? Because this is Austin Powers. And he's an antique jewelry expert, and he tells James that customs just like intercepted this rare Fabergé emerald globe, and it's worth like $100,000. And the box was addressed to a Maria Fraudenstein, who, according to like the documents with the little globe, it says that she inherited this from her grandfather. Now, the thing is, they know Maria Fraudenstein because she works for MI6. The reason she works for MI6 is because they full on know she's a double agent. Going in, they're like, you are helping the Russians, but this is an opportunity for you to give them false information that we like happen to leave out. Oh no, we're so reckless in the West. Because Maria's whole job here is to send encrypted messages to the CIA, and then she just copies them and sends them to Russia too. So basically they're just giving her all this phony information that they want to monitor and see if they can like figure out more Russian agents acting on this phony information. So long story short here, the Russians sent this Fabergé globe over to Maria because they want her to auction it off as Sotheby's under her name. That way they can avoid having to pay her for doing the job of espionage. You know, they can't directly pay her a bunch of money. It's going to raise a lot of red flags. If you just happen to inherit a lot of money, well, I don't know about that. I'm surprised they're even paying her at all. So here we are. And James, he's sitting here listening to the story, and he has a hunch here. He's like, you know what? I'm betting if she auctions this thing off at Sotheby's, whoever her handler is likely gonna be at the auction, you know, basically as an underbidder, okay? They're gonna try to push that value up of the object to like the right amount necessary to pay Maria accurately. They're not gonna overpay this lady, if at all, you know? So Emma's like, you know, James, I think you might have something here. I'm gonna call in some help, some expert help, and we'll see where this goes. So he calls up this guy named Kenneth Snowman. I know, his name is Snowman, but anyway, he is a master jeweler, and he's like, hey, Snowman, you need to help James be able to spot who the underbidder is at the auction, because like, you know about like prices of jewels. So James goes to Sotheby's the next night for the auction. He meets up with Snowman, and they only got one shot at this, okay? They're only doing the auction once. They have to pay a lot of attention. So the auction begins, and James starts using his judgmental bastard skills, and he's just like assessing all of the people in the room. And finally, James spots the rat. He's like, ooh, that's the underbidder. He like points him out to this other secret agent they had like in the press section undercover. So he's like, hey. So he like points him out, and the other agent's like takes a bunch of pictures of this guy. However, James actually recognizes this guy. He's like, oh, I know him. That's Peter Malinowski. He's like the agricultural attaché from the Russian embassy. So James follows Peter out of the auction. He sees him going into the Russian embassy right away. And he's like, oh boy, do I have enough evidence? I'm getting you deported under suspicion of espionage. Yes. So he's very excited about it. And that's kind of where the story ends. They don't really go into what happens to Maria. Because obviously she's kind of busted in this. They do have like one throwaway line at the beginning of The Man with the Golden Gun mentioning that she's dead. So I don't know who killed her, but someone did. All right, let's keep moving on. Story 3 is The Living Daylights. And actually, this is the premise of the movie The Living Daylights, at least the beginning of it. James is on a plane, and he's heading over to Berlin because M has sent him on a mission to basically help a Russian defector known as 272 escape East Berlin. And all they know about this guy is that they're gonna make an escape. They're gonna try to run for it at 6 p.m. on one day of a 3-day window. They don't have a lot to go on here. And it's James's job to basically prevent a KGB assassin, codenamed Trigger, from killing 272 as he tries to make a break across the border. James, he's likely going to need to snipe the sniper. However, James, he is in full complain about my job mode. He hates this job. He thinks it's stupid because it's basically just a murder. You know, he's not like fighting to the death. It's not a fair fight. He just has to go kill someone in cold blood. And it's really rubbing James the wrong way. And he's feeling really complainy about it. And he's just really morose. I think James is frankly burnt out and doesn't have the words to express that. He needs just to take a break. But But still, it's a mission, right? So he goes all the way over to West Berlin. He meets up with his contact there. It's a Captain Sender. And the second James meets this guy, he like immediately doesn't like him. Basically, James thinks this guy is such like a pencil pushing dweeb. He just chafes at the fact that this guy is supposed to supervise him. He's like, ew, you are the worst human. I cannot stand you. And you're my boss right now? Ugh. Like, he's just so disgruntled this whole story. And he's gonna have to be with this guy for several days because he got there before the 3-day window. So he had a lot of time to kill. You know, James, he just walks around West Berlin. You know, he's like, should I go to a brothel maybe? Would that make me feel better? And then he's like, nah, I don't know where these girls have been. I probably shouldn't go. Like, so he's just him wandering around Berlin thinking about brothels for a good chunk of the story. And then finally it's showtime. Okay, the night has come. James, he goes into sniper mode and he's scoping out this escape route. And he happens to see this really beautiful woman and she's carrying a big ass cello. And James is like, hot damn, look at that girl. Like, he immediately kind of has like a little crush on her. He can't get distracted by tits right now. This is not the time or place. He keeps to the mission and 6 p.m. comes, goes, no sign of 272. So now James is like, well, I guess I don't have anything else to do till tomorrow. I'll just think about this cellist. And like, he just daydreams about this woman he saw for like 1 minute for so long. And he's just wondering, what was her life like? What is she like as a person? You know, all he does is like build this life with her in his brain because he has a crush. And I mean, he doesn't really have a lot else to do. Maybe he should have actually checked out the brothel. I don't know. But for so much of the story, he's just daydreaming. Because the second day of this mission goes exactly like the first, okay? He wanders around during the day, at night, sees the pretty girl, and he's like, nope, I can't get distracted by tits. 6 o'clock comes and goes, no sign of 272. So day 3 it is. This is his time to shine because it's gonna happen today. So the tension here is really high, okay? James and Sender are like not getting along because James can't stand Sender and he is very stressed out. And Sender really doesn't even have the good sense to like keep his mouth shut about stuff, okay? Like James, he's really stressed out. He's just trying to have a drink to like calm his nerves before the mission. And Sender is being such a square about it, saying, well, I'm gonna put it in my report, me. And like, technically he's not wrong. You're not supposed to drink on the job, okay? I get it, but like, read the room, bro. You are alone with a world-class assassin with a loaded gun. No one will hear you scream if he doesn't want to, okay? Stop annoying him. You're asking to get murdered. Like, god damn, Sender, I don't like you either. And James has just had it with him, okay? If me as a reader's annoyed, think about James as a character, okay? He's had it. He's like, listen, Sender, you can go tattle on me all you fucking like, okay? Does it look like I care what happens if you do? What I need you to do is shut the fuck up so I can do my job. Just lays into him. And Sender's like, fine. And I think he finally realized the trouble he's in. So he's like, okay, you're right, James. Okay, I'll be quiet. So it's getting close to 6 o'clock. James, he gets into position, okay? He has a sniper rifle. And he's looking around, looking for the other rival sniper. And he spots Trigger. And it's in the window, like across the street in another building. And he's getting ready to take the shot at Trigger. And that's when like a little bit of light shines on their face. And he's like, oh shit. Trigger is the girl with the cello that I've been daydreaming about. However, since James has been daydreaming about this girl, he feels like he knows her even though he's never said 2 words to this woman before. So he can't bring himself to kill her. So what he does is at the last second, he just shoots her rifle out of her hand. So her shot at 272 misses. And 272 manages to get over the wall and escapes into West Berlin. And Sender doesn't have the good sense to stay down after gunshots were fired. So he's like, yeah, James! He stands up in the window and James is like, you stupid fuck! And he like throws him down and he has to like lay on the ground with him because, you know, when a shot is fired, shots come back at you. People are gonna also fire at you, and fucking Sender's in front of the window. So now there's like a barrage of bullets going into the building because they all know where they are now because of fucking Sender. Luckily, the barrage of gunfire misses both of them. So Sender, he reports in and he sends for like an armored transport to come get them. And this is the moment where everybody's gonna really, really dislike Sender. If you were okay with him till now, this is the moment, because he's still being a little punk bitch, okay? He's like, you know what, James? I'm gonna have to put it in my report that you didn't kill the sniper because she was like a hot lady and like, you're not supposed to do that. And James is like, bro, again, I don't fucking care if you do that. Do I look like I care what you write in your fucking report? Like, what's the worst they're gonna do to me, huh? What consequences are there? Okay, I'm allowed to murder people for a living. What do you think's gonna happen? Oh, they'll take away my 00 status and I won't have to go back to this shitty job I hate? What a fucking hardship, Sender. Do your fucking worst, okay? And then it just kind of ends right there where he's just like, fuck you, Sender, and he leaves because he's just been like cranky and mad at his job the whole story. So really the story didn't really even go anywhere. It was just him picking on a nerd. And here we are, the end. All right, everybody, last story in this collection, 007 in New York. So James, he's on a secret mission in New York City. M has tasked him with finding a female former staff officer of MI6, and he needs to warn her that the FBI and the CIA are like getting really close to finding out that she is living with, like her boyfriend is a KGB agent. And since she was one of their assets, they want to protect her in this because she obviously does not know that he is a KGB agent. And so M sends James in to like warn her on like the hush hush because, you know, CIA and the FBI, they're not going to take kindly to someone coming over and tipping off a person of interest in an espionage case. So James comes into New York under an assumed identity, but he only has maybe 24 hours of anonymity before anyone gets the wiser of him. So he gets in contact with their asset and he's like, hey lady, you need to come meet me. I don't know, let's meet at the zoo. We'll meet in front of the reptile exhibit at like 3 o'clock. So James is like, great. He's like, this is really efficient. I'm going to get this done in the afternoon. I still got a lot more time before I have to get on a plane and out of New York. So you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to go out in the town. I'm going to have some drinks and like, it's going to be like a little fun little quick trip. James decides to, you know, spend the time of the day waiting around, just like driving around New York, and we're just kind of in his head hearing his thoughts he has, and mainly he just thinks about food and sex. You know, what else is new here? And you know, James, he really isn't a fan of any of the food in New York. And then like this story goes really into weird places because at one point in here it literally puts an entire recipe for how James likes his eggs cooked. Why is this in the book? It's a whole recipe in the middle of a story, but he doesn't like the eggs or any of the food. He doesn't really like the hotels and the clubs. He's like, ew, like England is so much better. He's just being snobby. However, the one thing that he does really like about New York is like his in-house booty call, Solange. So James, he's like, oh man, I can call up Solange. This is going to be great. 3 p.m. I'll tell this lady her boyfriend's a KGB guy. That'll go poorly, whatever. I'll leave. Call up Solange. We'll go to a fancy dinner. We'll go like dancing and stuff. And we'll go back to my hotel and just have like all of the kinky sex we can ever imagine. This is going to be great. So it's getting close to 3 p.m. James, he shows up at the zoo. And the thing is, the zoo doesn't have a reptile exhibit. And he's like, ah, fuck. He's so upset about it. Because now he's going to have to make all these clandestine calls and like replan his whole meetup with this lady. It's a whole mess. Cut to, now it's midnight, okay? And this is when he's finally found time to meet this lady. And they're going to meet up at the ice rink at Rockefeller Square. So the girl goes, James tells her, hey, your boyfriend's a KGB spy. And obviously she doesn't take it well. You know, she's been living with this guy and all of a sudden like, oh, my boyfriend has been using me because he's secretly a Russian spy. I'm sad now. And now James is standing there at midnight by an ice skating rink with this girl just sobbing and emotional. And James doesn't know what to do. So he's like, oh, they're there. Like, he's so awkward. He's like, oh God, now you have to deal with this woman who's crying all over me. I could have been having the craziest sex of my life with Solange right now, and now I'm stuck with this crying lady by an ice rink. What is my life? And that's just the end of the story. So it's just James fucking up a day in New York. But yeah, that's the end of it. That's the end of all 4 stories in this book. So while none of the stories in this are all that exciting, there are some funny moments, there's some actiony moments, but realistically, these are just like nonsense. It's not really a good collection of short stories. It is fun seeing like the influences from some of these stories that have been used in movies, but overall, these are really like kind of non-consequential, really short stories that don't go anywhere. So it's fine, I guess. I don't know. It's unnecessary to read, frankly. But here we are. Anyway, let me know in the comments down below, what was your favorite book of the James Bond series? I think for me, my favorite book is probably Thunderball. I like that one the best. That's my favorite. I actually really like Moonraker too. So I think those are my 2 favorites. I don't know. There's probably more that I'm not even thinking of right now, but those are my 2 favorites. If you like this video, make sure you give it a like. If you want to see more videos, make sure you subscribe. And if you want to see cool exclusive content, including early access to videos and a book club, you can consider becoming a channel member or a patron. Links for that are in the description down below. And on that note, I'll see you guys soon. Goodbye.